In this episode, we'll be talking about the many challenges of designing a watch case and its many external components. And I found out the hard way on how those things go. Next, we will be ranking the different 40th anniversary releases of GShock because it's finally the end of the year and it's time to do that video. And finally, a couple of you challenge my credibility when it comes to making these watch videos. So stay tuned on my answers to those questions in this episode of Designer Notes. So we'll be talking about a little bit candidly here, no script at all. We're going to be sharing with you the challenges of how to design a watch case. And it's a fun experience for me as a designer. I'm always open to challenges, and I always believe that the more limitations that a designer has and succeeding despite those limitations, those really more satisfying than anything else. And that is exactly what I learned when I was designing the 6030 chronograph. It's not just a matter of choosing off the shelf parts, but you really have to dig in, design, and push the production company, the production line, to achieve that effect that I really wanted. But at the same time, working with the costs and the components that's available. And you'll be surprised at how challenging and the many different problems that I encountered while doing so. So off the top, the whole idea for the case is to have the aesthetics that we associate with vintage chronographs. I've always admired the glass box Hoyers, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to design one. Holding that dome crystal and polished case is amazing and has a certain feel of elegance. But since I already designed the dial, I needed to get the proper harmony between the dial and case. This took a bit of deconstruction to pull off. The dial had to be shrunk a little bit to fit the case diameter. It's very different on the diagrams compared to seeing it in person. Happily, only the loom was needed to be revised for the production versions. While I was filming the shot, I also accidentally dropped the case back on the dial, giving this noticeable dent on the chronograph counterweight. Clumsy pirates never learn, I guess. From this close, I could see all the crisp details on the numbers and lines, along with some gorgeous detailings on the subdials. This is a rare chance at seeing these details from under the crystal. I was very pleased to see this high level of finish on the indexes. On the case, we asked for the full polished case finish to see if it could express the vintage aesthetics. We can add a brush or satin finish later if we needed to. We also had to choose a more angled bezel to create the ideal curvature along with the dome crystal. I specifically asked for the 20mm lug width to ensure that we maximize the playability of the straps. Overall, the quality is very good, even on the parts of the inner case that you normally won't see. It's a rather simple block of case that we may need to change in the future if we wanted a more complex rehound. When it came to the crown, I chose a more flat and wide variant that aligns with the pushers. We debated adding a signature on it, but we felt that we didn't want to have the logo all over the place. We threw all of those graphics on the case back. From here, I could show the racing spirit of the watch. The checkered motif is also etched here for visual interest. That's the case in hands, and obviously I'm not a watchmaker and I'm very reckless when it comes to opening these watch cases, but I'm happy to show you that that's the raw results of all of the experimentations that I was doing, not just for designing but also making these videos. Now let's talk about a very different challenge when it comes to sourcing the other parts, such as this leather strap. And oh boy, this leather strap has a story on its own. We got the prototypes for the watches ahead of locking down the strap design. We opted for the perforated racing style bands to fully capture the motorsports impression of the watch. However, when we received the straps, we felt it was too smooth for our liking. It felt underwhelming, to put it nicely. This was very far from the original idea that Adrian had when he commissioned a local Indonesian leather maker to make the straps for him. It had all these beautiful texturing that also keeps up with the quality of the watches. And honestly, if it wasn't so expensive to export, we would have used these for our collection. We also actually had 4 different strap colors for the 4 different variants. These will be offered to the local Indonesian market. For the international audience, we initially planned to have just the brown and black straps to ensure that we can produce it on time for the launch. But with this unimpressive quality, we decided that we'd rather miss the launch than to offer subpar straps like these. So now we're left looking for a suitable replacement. We considered some sailcloth straps, of course, like these from Artem. But man, they're pretty pricey and we're not ready for this kind of cost. Also, the stitching is not a bad idea if the perforations were not available. Besides the straps that we got, the difference is very visible. Sure, I'm spoiled with a lot of better straps, but we need to offer something that could at least come close. Another thing that we experimented on was with metal bracelets. I got this metal bracelet from the Guzman DG013 and it looks so classy on the copper model. This quickly became my favorite combination of the 4 after using it just a few times. This became the idea for us to use a mesh bracelet that we are now sourcing separately. As much as we want to release this in time for the holidays, the delay is necessary in pursuit of the right strap. And hopefully, it's worth the wait. And that's the sad, disappointing story about these straps. Now, we're practically delayed because these straps are not up to par to what we wanted to have. And maybe it's because I'm also spoiled with all of the Artem straps that I've been playing around with, but you cannot deny that we cannot release this kind of strap with this kind of watch that we're able to build. There's a clear disparity that it would really be jarring and glaring and so obvious that we cheapened out on these straps. And we don't want that. That's not the intention. We want to give the best quality for the money that you're going to draw for our watches. So we're sourcing that right now. Hopefully we can give you an update in the next episodes or so. Next, we're going to talk about the other half of this channel, which is the GShock channel. We talked about the microbrand half and now the GShock brand. And we all know that it's the 40th anniversary of GShock and they've released a ton of GShocks, not just reiterations that we expected, but also some really surprising innovations. But I'm going to tell you right now, off the bat, that I wasn't happy with most of their releases for this 40th anniversary. However, interestingly, there are some that I thought was not going to be good, then turned out to be great releases. So let's finally get that top 10 40th anniversary collection from GShock of 2023. Number 10, MTG B3000 Flare Red. This is part of a combo that also includes a Mudmaster model. This features a striking red bezel that's made from layers of carbon and fiberglass sheets that also glow in the dark. It's a great looking watch that is literally unique for every piece as the bezel will forge differently every time. This takes just the 10th spot as men who would actually buy a Mudmaster for its features wouldn't choose such a flamboyant model, and breaking the $1,000 mark will not help its case either. Number 9, the GMW B5000PS. This recrystallized square is part of a 3-piece collection that features a hardening process that delivers this unique crystallizing pattern. This pattern is also unique from every watch, making it very desirable for collectors. This is a recurring theme all throughout this list. This only gets the 9th place because I was personally disappointed by how it looked on videos. I had high aspirations for it and was going to buy one for myself, but chose to save up instead. My list, my rules, mateys. Deal with it. Number 8, GCWB 5000UN, the Carbon Monocoque Square. A lot of people are waiting for this new full resin GShock design that is in the form of the beloved square profile. It's got 3 different types of carbon, a full articulating bracelet, and extreme durability to weight ratio. But coming at $2,000, it's a hefty sum for innovation. Also, from the reports I've been getting, it also suffers from the plastic cheap feel of the Moonswatch. But at least we all know that this can save you from the impending zombie apocalypse, unlike what anything Swatch is putting out. Number 7, GA2140RE Remaster Black Series. This Casio is the only one I like for the 2100 series for the 40th anniversary models. It's got that discreet blackout theme with the heritage strap containing all of the important reference numbers. It's very cool. It's also got that gold keeper that's inconspicuous for the general crowd but cool for those who know their G-Shock. Number 6, GMWB 5000EH. Now, speaking of cool, this is a cool full metal square that doesn't cost much more than your typical metal square, but now it has that cool street graphics from Eric Hayes. Eric Hayes is the artist that has collaborated numerous times with G-Shock and is once again the go-to guy for the 40th anniversary logo. Have I said cool enough times? But obviously not cool enough to crack the top 5. This 6900 might just be the best 6900 yet. At 5, it's the DW6940RX. This is part of a massive 7-watch collection that features clear resin cases and straps. This one, however, also sports an amazing clear display that exposes the gold-plated module. And speaking of that module, this goes above and beyond with a brand new, more efficient module inside. But then, of course, you'll have to deal with that yellowing. Fourth is the other recrystallized model, the DW5040PG. This has a lovely gold display and other great Easter eggs that is not too obvious. The red frame, gold star button, DLC caseback, and recrystallized buckles, everything is in here. It's a bit pricey for a G-Shock, but at $300, it beats many microbrands to the punch while being a limited edition piece. This one grew on me to the point that when developing this list, I did not hesitate putting it ahead of the full metal versions. Number 3 is the Shugeki Maru Gai. You know it's a special G-Shock when they actually mention the number of units they'll be producing. This top-of-the-line MRG will only be produced in 700 pieces worldwide. It showcases an amazing handcrafted bezel, recrystallized titanium, and is a symbol of Japanese excellence the G-Shock way. Priced at $6,000, this is indeed priced with excellence in mind. I for one love this custom white floral rubber strap, but I can't help but think that to many this may have brought down this watch a notch in the ranks, especially when it's outclassed by the number 2 on the list. Number 2, the MRGB 2000 GA Gassan finish. Limited to just 500 pieces, this kicked off the 40th anniversary and nothing surpassed its opulence throughout the celebration. The bezel is made from titanium with the Gassan family signature pattern, recrystallized titanium case, and handcrafted parts from the famed Japanese master swordsmith. And of course, it retains the G-Shock features and durability, all for a luxurious price of $8,000. For the price it commands, this really brings all of the exclusivity and craftsmanship that watch collectors are seeking. And despite that price tag, it sold out in no time at all. And finally at number 1, it's the DWE 5640RX. Yes, that one that I said is the worst of the 40th anniversary release from G-Shock. This is the number 1 of them all. It combines all of the features found throughout the model releases, such as that square profile, clear display, gold IC, and 4-star Easter eggs. Here, we could see a few firsts as well, with the new module, first time to use of the metal bracelets on the DWE lineup, and a new hybrid strap and clear link band. I felt at the time that G-Shock threw everything that we hated in this one model and blended it together for our consumption. The yellowing of the resin, the wear-prone lug setup with the metal band, and not to mention that illegible display. But you know, in classic watch pirate flip-flopping, I grew to love this thing to the point that I wanted to get one. It's cool and it's fun, and it can be had for as low as $260. Well, at least back in the time. And that's the top 10 40th anniversary releases from GShock. There's not really much to rank here. Maybe there's about 30 different watches to rank. But what surprised me is what I thought was a bad idea turned out to be the number one. What's your number one? Let me know. Comment down below. Now let's pause this show for a moment, not because of a sponsored shout out. We don't have that this show, but of course, if you want Kunuku Coffee, please do support their local roasting coffee company here in Aruba. Kunuku Coffee, the best coffee in the universe. But this is for a disclaimer, a little warning that from here onward, the audio kept cutting on and off on random occasions and random moments. And I really apologize for that. I didn't want that to happen. I didn't realize that. And you deserve better. And if you wanted to jump off from here, I wouldn't blame you. You deserve much better use of your time. But if you decide to stick around, you really are a true watch pirate. Thank you, and on back to the show. And now it's time for your viewer comments. Okay, and before we go to our viewer comments, I'd like to address certain things. You all mentioned, or many of you mentioned, that the YouTube Shorts is not working for you. So, okay, we're going to tone down the YouTube Shorts, but still, I wanted to interact with you guys. Melvin Ramirez asked, manual wind or automatic watches? Okay, I would prefer automatic ones most of the time because many of the manual winds that I see look cheap, especially because they really are cheaply made because they're mostly come from China. The ones that I usually see below the $1,000 mark, and I would see more automatics that are better decorated for that price. However, when it comes to actual experience with manual watches, I would prefer manual watches than automatic the ones. Say for example, the Speedmaster, the 7750 with the value movement. That is amazing. I have one. It still works. It's very old, but if you go that route compared to Seagull manual winds, then I would really go rather automatic than the Seagull manual winds, just because they're not that quality finished, and some of their screws look not amateurish, look chromed out, which cheapens the effect. I would rather have those screws just plain screws. One example is that I have with a micro rotor, surprisingly, a micro rotor caliber that's used on my Solas. That Solas that I have at in the drawer is actually not blued. The screws are not blued. They're just bare screws, and they look way better. If the Seagull manual winds had those kind of screws, that would infinitely make their manual calibers a lot more presentable. Actually, bluing them out made them cheap looking. But other manual wind calibers are just gorgeous, and they make the watches, the watch case thinner without automatic motor. And if you really want my take on that, the best effect that is a fusion of the two, automatic and manual wind, is the ones that we could find from Piaget, the Antiplano. Man, those are gorgeous. We have a few of those in Chivas. I'm going to show you a few images from here. And those are amazing watches. They have that manual wind effect. Of course, you can see all of the gears, and it's super flat. And it has a peripheral rotor that doesn't even look like a rotor at all. It's amazing looking, and I think that's the best of both worlds, if you ask me. So if we're talking about the sub $1,000 mark, I'll go automatic. There's some automatics out there. The Jouper automatics are really good. especially from Zelos. But if we go past the $1,000, then I go with manual wind calibers. Stiffer67 asks or remarks, no problem, it's your watch design, so I hope it's a great success for you, but I can't believe I bought a SAR bomb off the back of this upload. Talking about that SAR Bomba review that we made. For 2 watches, here's a bizarre choice for you. I sold my Cartier Santos Galbi and bought 3 Christopher Wards and 3 Zelos watches with that money. Well, that's an interesting round. Okay, so he got more money for his Cartier Galbi. So my favorite of the 6 was the Bronze Hammerhead 2, which has a slate dial. So here's the choice that he gave me this time. So a lot of you gave some choices, which is really great. I love that. So what's your choice, the Santos or the Hammerhead 2? Well, that's very easy for me, the Santos, because let's say, for example, let's throw away the price points. Let's just imagine me in an alternate universe that both of these cost at the same price, right? I would still go with the Santos because I love that square classic design that's thin and I could wear with with a more versatile attire. I usually wear suits and sleeves because of my work and also because of our organization. So the Cartier Santos would look great on those. The Hammerhead, I would have little to do with Hammerhead, despite of my pirate persona and despite living here in Aruba, and also despite the fact that I can't swim. It's not really in character for me to wear a Hammerhead. Although I have owned a couple of Hammerheads myself, it's still too big and too unwieldy for my wrist. I know many of you are complaining that I wear big watches for my wrist, and I'm more than happy to do that. But the Hammerhead is just not just hammering my wrist, but thoroughly engulfing my wrist. It just looks ridiculous now. If it was a GShock, I could get a pass because everybody knows I'm wearing a GShock, and most of GShock wearers have smaller wrists anyway. Asian pirates. But if it's not a GShock at that size, then it would look weird. It's closer to Invicta territory there, which is also another thing why I'm averse to that. But I'm not saying that the Hammerhead is bad. It's also good looking. I've seen and I've reviewed many of them. But if you give me a Santos, then I'd take a Santos anytime. Next, Ocean Zoo 6585 says, I believe Certina. He mentioned here Certain, but I'm pretty sure he meant here Certina. Had a similar concept of a swappable bezel years ago with more variants from the sports dive watch styles. Yes, I've seen that, and our friend from Brave Beaters has been a proponent of Certina, and he has been promoting the brand and making more widespread to everyone how Certina is actually a good watch brand. And I could see some really good designs in them. And you know me, I love my swappable watch parts. I love my Legos. As you can see, even my microphone is still alive. It's still like as per your request. So I'm a generous watch pirate, and I listen to you. I listen to my wife too for that. And that swappable bezel, I'm actually going to swipe that. I'm going to use that in one of my watch designs one day, because that's just another aspect of a watch that can completely change its look and feel. The same as changing straps and bands. Once you change a bezel, it changes the look of the watch completely. And instead of buying a whole watch, I can argue that you could buy another bezel, and then there you go. And of course, Tina offers many of those. Next, Single Track Mind says, I vote against shorts. I never watch them. I dislike everything about the format, just my opinion. And many of you agreed with that. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the viewer comment section, I'm going to tone down on the short. I have fun doing them or making them. I'm not gonna stop making them. I'm just going to tone them down. And I wanted to also continue to increase my watch viewership, and I wanted to give more value to you. And I think the viewer comments and shorts have a certain value to it, but doing it too much maybe watering down the value that I'm bringing to you. And I still want to, with all these shorts, I still provide as much product value to it as possible, but that's not the value that my channel is bringing to you. I interact with you, and the viewer shorts are great, but they're not giving you enough value to the point that some of you are actually it's not why you're here for. And I agree. So let's tone it down. Let's go back to the format of making more videos, hopefully not these longer ones. And let's see. I still have a few more projects to do, so let's try and see how we negotiate those schedules. Next, well, 9 to success. Oh, okay. Oh, hurt my feelings. Only slightly. Okay, that's good. It was good, well balanced, self-controlled right here. With your ball ranking, but I would guess perhaps you just hadn't explained all of their models. For example, the Railroad Standard 1930 years Trainmaster, which I do own. It's an amazingly unique, lovely, and functional watch. Look at the features. It's a throwback to of its dials, COSC certified. It has an anti-magnetism, shock resistance, plus amazing history as watches, etc. All these things should be enough to vault the ball brand at least to your top 3. Cheers, pare, and keep up your awesome work. Okay, thank you so much. And yes, he also has a comment about cats. He also loves cats, but owns a dog. Loves it when his basset hound actually goes after his cats. Okay, so maybe that's a problem, because here's a cat owner that's trying to convince me otherwise about ball watches. Okay, here's my serious thought. Ignore the cat comment. I can forgive you for that for now. Ball, for me, is like a fusion between Breitling and Oris, if you get my drift. You know, they have some really good bezel designs and dial designs similar to Breitling's, but somehow they have that impression of Oris to me. It's not that I'm talking bad or down on Oris. Oris has its own unique design, especially with its 65 diver and the Aquas. I have an Aquas, right? It's pilot watches also. I love their aviation watches, the square ones with the knobs. They're really quirky and I love those, but they have a personality that, hey, you know, this is an aviation watch. You see it, you know that it's an Oris aviation watch. Hey, you see it's an Aquas, it's a dive watch. It's a vintage dive watch on the Oris 65 diver. You immediately have that because they have their strong design language, you know, and it's so strong that it has become ingrained to people. Oh, that's an Oris. Same goes with Breitling. Breitling has their Navitimer and slide rule bezels, and now with the Premier line, they're hitting the ballpark with all of those designs. You know, when it comes to chronographs, arguably Breitling is one of the foremost chronograph makers that's well known right now. You know, even if you're a novice watch enthusiast, you know probably a Breitling chronograph. You've probably seen one. You could probably identify one. But that's a problem with Ball, because with all of the offerings that they have, they barely register an identity to me. CRZ, Christopher Ward, Zelos, ones that I mentioned in the video, in the ranking, they have such strong design language and impression that you know unmistakably those uh, came from the same. But look at the roadmaster, look at the ball engineer. You could pass them off if you squint a little bit. You could mistake them for art watches, even a long jeans. It could look like a long jean. It could look like a Tissot, even a star. You know, that's the problem with ball watch. Here's my proposal. If you're listening here, I still want your money. Remember that. I want your bag. I want your treasure chest. If you want your brand to be a little bit more recognizable, slim down your collection. You have offering way too much, and they range and in inter between each other. Okay, Trainmaster, yes, that is true. I think that the flagship that they have is the Trainmaster, which has some really solid hand design, and also those enamel dials, really great. I think the Trainmaster is their best, but aside from that, it's going to be really hard to capture any attention, and I think that's what makes it takes the lower half of the ranking, because it's just mid meandering. Would rather have a bad design or super out there design, super strange design, rather than having like smack dab in the middle. Just kind of like shooters doing right now, but at the very least, shooters trying to innovate, unlike Rolex. And that's why I don't like Rolex. Most Rolexes. Okay, go to Forsake None. Dude, you should do a video about why people hate the new GW95 Mudman, and I think it hasn't been talked in a video since it was released. The community is mostly not satisfied with the Casio's laziness of recycling an old ProTrack module as such an important piece. Yes, that is true. Many are disappointed with the GW 9500. Let's go G90 GW 9500. And to me, what I don't like about it is it's too blocky. It doesn't. It almost looks like a toy, especially with that blockiness on the 6 o'clock position. I don't know if that's even a. I think that's a sensor. I think that's a sensor. I don't know if that's a button. I didn't even do research on this, which is sad and bad on my part. But I think it's also one of the bad design elements of this one. I think there's some people who like it. I think Morgan GShock likes it, but I don't know. I don't like it either. And yeah, having that kind of ProTrack feel to it's like a buffed up ProTrack that you left in the gym, and then when you come back home, you buffed up. It looks like it got a shot of steroids. A ProTrack that got shot steroids, and that's also not appealing to me. There are some really bulky G-Shocks that appeals to me, but this is too blocky, and it just doesn't have that Mud Master or Mudman feel to it that we've seen in the past. It just veers too different. The screen also is too different compared to what we've been used to. Even though they tried also with sunburst digital effect that they had. And of course, this is still a very, very capable watch with the specs that it has. But visually, aesthetics, not that good. Probably they could make it up with some really interesting colors. The orange one is probably the one, if you put a gun to my head or a cutlass to my throat, that's the one that I'm going to choose. Simply because it just pops out to you and captures my attention. But other than that, it's kind of the same as the ball situation. They didn't try enough. Yes, lazy. That's the problem. That's the thing. Of course, for someone in GShock, development lab out there probably spent hours upon days upon weeks designing this, and I don't want to take out from his hard work, but that effort did not translate to a good design that appeals to me. It may appeal to somebody out there. Otherwise, Chuck would have not released it. They're not gonna funnel thousands of dollars. I mean, something that's not, at the very least, tested to be sellable. It's going to be sellable at the very least, maybe in discounts, but it's not a good design that has a wide appeal. Let's just say that. Also, what's interesting is remember that the video that I pointed out a couple of days ago with Jimmy Kincaid, when he talked about that new leaked Rangeman that has an MIP display. I think that's a lot more interesting when it comes to its visual aesthetics than this Pro Master laziness that we're seeing here. Although both are clearly very blocky in nature, but it has a little bit more personality, this new MIP Rangeman, because it has a solid direction when it comes to its lines. It is blocky, but it's going horizontal and vertical, and it kind of still looks like a Rangeman. Unlike with this one, this Mudman now looks more like a Pro Trek than a Mudman. Maybe that's why people are turned off by it. Next, Peter Campbell says, how about a Seiko Marine Master Tuna? Let's look at that. Marine Master Tuna. I think it's this one. Yes. Versus the Rolex Deep Sea Dweller. Two very different watches designed for a similar purpose. Yes, the similar purpose here is to have a dive watch that could surpass the challenges of deep sea diving, or rather deep sea specs, or the farther that you could get, because realistically no human could actually dive this far down in the ocean. But it's really just a testament, or trophy hunting, let's just say that, when it comes to these two watches. But which one would I prefer? Honestly, I find the Marine Master Tuna a lot more interesting looking than the Sea Dweller, and that's coming from a person who's still owns Submariner. But maybe that's why my bias against the Sea Dweller sprouts from, because I already have a Submariner, and if I'm going to own any of these two, I would rather go with the Tuna. Of course, if we're talking about value-wise, given the value of the Sea Dweller, most people, even me, would choose a Sea Dweller for its value retention and its market value. But let's just say that we live in a universe where both of these are valued in the same monetary metric, then probably I'd go with the Marine Master Tuna, because it's much more interesting. That shroud, and keep in mind, I also already have a Paddy Tuna, which is not watered down version, but the more affordable, less spec version of the Marine Master. But now with the Marine Master, it just becomes like a full-on love fest because of that design. I think I gravitate towards that kind of design. Even though I have smaller wrists, this shrouded, bolted on design appeals to me. Maybe it's because it has that industrial mechanical feel, opposed to the elegance of the Sea Dweller. But of course, if you ask me, just as what I've said earlier with the Santos comparison, I typically wear suits and sleeves, so why don't I go with a Sea Dweller? Maybe it's because I already have a Sea Master, a Submariner rather, and that's why I would go with the Tuna instead. But let's just imagine again, what if I don't have a Submariner? Then maybe I'll go with the Sea Dweller rather than Marine Master. But there's so many buts. That's so many alternate universe what ifs for me to actually take the Sea Dweller. And that goes to show that I would rather have a Marine Master instead. Next, the main topic here of criticism. One of you criticized my taste or my approach when it comes to okay, now going to that now going to a criticism here, and this is not a new criticism. I've heard of this before, but ABCS3356 says, if you don't have the products you're reviewing, then what's the point? Well, the point is that I simply could talk about anything that I want. That's the whole basic point of it all. But this kind of question actually opens up a much deeper examination of the hobby, or any hobby for that matter. What is the point? Many of you might, or the regulars, the loyal, the ones who started with me in this channel, you all probably know that I started this channel basically because of that question. And that's why Mr. Zelos is a big integral part of this channel, because he's the one who opened that question to me. I actually asked him the question, is it possible for me to make a watch review channel without getting the watches on my hand? That's the question that I asked, that I could still remember to this day, while I was in Random Rob's chat stream. And Mr. Zelos replied to me that he would prefer that someone has the product in hand that he is reviewing. And he is actually right. I would also myself prefer that I have the product tested by myself, worn by myself, and have it here in my hand for me to review, because it's a much more compelling and deep and honest review, because I could actually feel and see the different situations and angles of the watch, rather than simply just one flat image on the internet or a video that I've seen on YouTube. However, I sought out to prove that I could actually grow a channel by using that premise. And I think I was able to do that. And not only that, in the past year, I was able to pivot my career from the retail industry to watch and jewelry industry, which goes to show you could pretty much do anything with whatever subject that you can do on YouTube, and you can even monetize that in a way. But what's more important to me is the actual point. What is the point? That's what ABCS is asking here. Well, the point is, if I don't have the watch, I can strive for it. That goes with anything else. If we, or if anyone, is just going to stand there, listen to other people, or watch other people's content, that's nice and good. It's an entertainment in moderation, of course. I believe that anything too much is also could be hurtful. But as a creative, as a person who is not satisfied with simply just watching or reading or hearing about things, my point is, I would strive to get the point. I would strive to get to a place wherein I could earn that watch to review, that I could get that watch to review. And I think I've proven that through the past years. I was able to build relationships with other brands, and then these brands are now sending watches to me. They trust my opinion. They trust my channel. They trust me to release this kind of content, which is the point of making this channel in the first place. To interact, to learn, to experience, interact with these watches, experience these watches, learn about watches, and I would like to say that I've learned quite a bit in the past 3 4 years, and that is the point. That you can learn, you're not satisfied with just standing still. You could strive to get that watch, and I think I was able to do that. But more than that, now I've able to even design my own watch, which is amazing. I couldn't even imagine that in my 3 years ago, and now it's here. It's on my wrist. That is the point. So the point is, if I don't have the watch that I'm reviewing, then why not make the watch that I could review, that I could show you, for you to review, for you to buy, for you to enjoy. Even if you don't buy my watch, if you could stand there and interact with me, tell me what makes it. You could review this watch without holding it in your hand. If you could do that with the images and the videos that I make, then I'm more than happy and more than happy to feature it in this channel. Because that is the point. The point is to interact, to go into that journey, to achieve something, to finish that journey, and then start a new journey once again. That is the point. And for missing the point, ABCS33, what is it again? ABCS3356. You're banned from getting the point. And that's time for Mr. Zelos. No Mickey Mouse watches for me. I'm not a child, not a fan of cats, but cats flambe, that's a bit over the top. I'll take Omega over Tudor. In fact, my collection pretty much reflects that. I do love bracelets as long as they don't have the butterfly clasp or pins or collars set up and removable links. Zelos over CRZ, Zelos over CW, Zelos over pretty much everything. The Zelos in 2024 is going to break me financially, and I'm fine with that. What did we expect from Mr. Zelos? Nothing less than loyalty to his brand, and I wholeheartedly agree with many of his sayings. So, that was fun. Comment down below, suggest even more versus watches for me to throw in my hat into, throw in my comments, show you the point, and let's discuss and have fun and interact with each other. See you next time. Very happy with this anniversary. But I'm not very happy with this anniversary collection. But I'm not very happy with the releases that. But right out of the bat, I'm going to tell you right now that most of their releases, So let's begin our ranking from the 10th place for the top 10. Ah! Can't get it. Can't get it. However, there are some things that I thought was bad. Oh, bro, you're distracting me. I'm looking at you instead of looking at the lens. What do you think? Let me know down below, and let's discuss on how wrong I am, and or how infinitely wrong and bad you are from life.